Picture this. A young storm god armed with magical weapons faces off against a seven-headed sea dragon. He wins, claims kingship of the gods, builds a palace on a sacred mountain, and then gets eaten by death itself. This isn't some modern fantasy novel. This is actually the Baal cycle, one of the oldest and most epic mythological stories ever discovered, and it was buried in the ground for 3,000 years. My name is Jason. I'm a huge mythology nerd and fantasy author who's been incorporating these ancient stories into my own work for years, and today we're covering Baal, the Canaanite god whose mythology is so metal, it makes Game of Thrones look tame. We're talking cosmic battles, divine resurrections, and a storm god whose power was so legendary that his worship spread across 3 continents. Our story starts in the divine court of El, the ancient patriarch of the Canaanite gods. El is old, wise, and ready to pass on the day-to-day work of ruling the cosmos. The problem is he has a favorite son named Yam, the god of the sea. And Yam is a tyrant. He sees himself as the rightful heir and sends messengers to the assembly of the god with a chilling demand. Surrender Baal to him as a slave, or he will unleash his watery chaos upon them all. The gods, terrified, bow their heads in submission, all except one. Baal, the young and ambitious storm god, is furious. He's ready to fight, but El commands him to stand down. Yam has the official title, after all. Yam, now officially the king, becomes even more demanding. Baal knows he can't win this with brute force alone, so he goes to the divine craftsman, a god named Kothar Wakasis, who is a master of forging magical artifacts. Kothar agrees to help and forges 2 incredible weapons for Baal, 2 enchanted clubs. The first is called Yagrush, which means chaser, and the second is Aimur, which means driver. He tells Baal these clubs will fly from his hands like eagles and strike his enemy with supernatural force. Armed with his new weapons, Baal confronts Yam. This isn't just a god, but a monstrous being, often described as a 7-headed serpent or dragon, the embodiment of the chaotic, destructive power of the sea. Baal strikes Yam on the shoulder with Chaser, but the sea god doesn't fall. He strikes him again between the eyes with Driver, and this time, Yam collapses. Baal is about to finish him off, but the goddess Anat stops him, declaring the defeated enemy should be taken captive, not slain in dishonor. Baal, victorious, is proclaimed the new king of the gods. He has defeated chaos and brought order to the cosmos, but his victory wasn't complete. A king needs a palace. Now that Baal is king, he has a problem. All of the other major gods have grand palaces, but he's basically homeless. A king without a palace is no king at all. So he complains to the goddess Asherah, the wife of El and the mother of the gods. He knows that in order to get anything done, he needs to get on her good side, and through her, get the approval of the old-timer El. Baal brings her lavish gifts of gold and silver, and she agrees to plead his case before the high god. Asherah travels to El's court and finds him in his tent at the source of the cosmic rivers. She argues that Baal has proven himself a worthy ruler and deserves a palace befitting his status. It would bring honor to them all. El, seeing the wisdom in her words and perhaps recognizing that Baal's active rule is better for everyone, finally gives his permission. He agrees that Baal, the rider on the clouds, should have a house of his own. With the divine go-ahead, Baal once again calls upon Kothar Wakasis, the master builder. Kothar gets to work on a magnificent palace atop the sacred Mount Zaphon. The palace is constructed from cedar, bricks, and precious metals. There's one small argument though. Kothar wants to install windows, but Baal refuses. He's worried that if he has windows, his old enemy Yam might sneak back in, or worse, his daughters might escape. It's an odd detail, but it shows his lingering paranoia. Eventually, he changes his mind, and Kothar cuts windows into the palace walls. Through these windows, Baal cracks open the clouds and sends his thunderous voice across the world, bringing the first life-giving rains. To celebrate, Baal throws a massive feast for all of the gods and goddesses, and for 7 days, they celebrate his new home and his undisputed kingship. He finally has it all: the throne, the power, and the palace. But Baal's pride has made him arrogant. He sends a message to his final and most terrifying enemy, and what he didn't know was that this enemy could not be defeated with a magical club. This final enemy is Mot, the god of death and sterility. He is the lord of the underworld, the parched, dusty land where nothing grows. Mot is everything Baal is not. While Baal brings rain and life, Mot brings drought and decay. He lives in a city of muck and filth at the bottom of the earth, and his appetite is insatiable. He consumes everything. When Mot receives Baal's message declaring himself king, he is insulted. Mot sends back a chilling invitation: "Come to my realm and be my next meal." "My appetite," Mot says, "is the appetite of the lion in the wasteland. I desire to eat mud and filth. You, Baal, will come down into my throat." Terrified, Baal knows he cannot win this fight. Mot is not an enemy you can strike with a club. He is a force of nature, a fundamental part of the cosmos. Seeing no other choice, Baal agrees to surrender. He descends into the underworld, and as he goes, all life on earth begins to wither. The rain stops, the fields dry up, the world enters a period of devastating drought. When news of Baal's death reaches the heavens, the gods are plunged into mourning. The great god El comes down from his throne, covers himself in sackcloth and ashes, and cuts his face and body in grief. But no one's sorrow is greater than that of Baal's sister and consort. Anat is a fierce warrior goddess, and her love for Baal is matched only by her capacity for violence. She wanders the earth searching for him, her cries echoing through the barren hills. When she finds his lifeless body, she holds a grand funeral, but her grief quickly turns to a burning rage. She hunts down Mot. When she finds him, she demands he return her brother. Mot, arrogant and bloated from having consumed Baal, just laughs and boasts about how he ate the storm god like a lamb. That was the last mistake he would ever make. Anat, in a terrifying display of fury, seizes Mot. The text is brutally specific. She splits him with a sword, she winnows him with a sieve, she burns him with fire, she grinds him in a mill, and she scatters his remains across the fields for the birds to eat. She didn't just kill death, she completely unmade him, processing him like grain at harvest time. With Mot destroyed, the cosmic balance is restored. In a dream, El sees the heavens raining oil and the rivers flowing with honey, signs that life is returning. Soon after, Baal is miraculously resurrected. He emerges from the underworld, returns to his throne on Mount Zaphon, and once again assumes his role as the bringer of rain and life. The cycle is complete. But the story implies this isn't a one-time thing. The conflict between Baal and Mot is eternal, a cycle of seasons representing the dry summer when Mot rules and the rainy fertile winter when Baal is king. By the way, my team and I fund this channel all ourselves, so you'll never see us run those annoying mid-roll ads or push some random product I don't believe in. We do have one thing I think you might be into though, and that's my fantasy all access library. It's where you can find all of the fantasy books my team and I have written. I do have a team because I can't possibly write all of the books to fill this universe. They're all set in the same shared universe inspired by the myths that we talk about here, and it's what pays the bills and keeps the channel going. So if that sounds cool, you can check that out at the link below. So who was this god really? The name Baal simply means lord or owner in ancient Semitic languages, and it was originally a title for the storm god Hadad. Over time, the title became more popular than the name, and he just became known as Baal, the lord of weather and fertility. In a place like Canaan, which is modern-day Syria, Lebanon, and Israel, agriculture depended entirely on seasonal rainfall. Unlike Egypt with the Nile or Mesopotamia with the Tigris and Euphrates, if the rains didn't come, people starved. So a god who controlled the storms was incredibly important, maybe the most important god of all. His power was a matter of life and death, which is why his myth is all about fighting the forces of drought and sterility. For thousands of years, this entire epic story was lost to history. We only knew about Baal from his enemies, particularly from the Hebrew Bible, where he is portrayed as the great rival to the Israelite god Yahweh. Then in 1928, a farmer, this is wild, in Assyria accidentally discovered an ancient tomb. This led to the excavation of the lost city of Ugarit. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. There, archaeologists found a massive library of clay tablets, including the 6 that tell the full story of the Baal cycle, and these tablets were written in a unique alphabetic cuneiform script, which was quickly deciphered, opening up a window into a religious world we thought was gone forever. Worship of Baal was a major part of life in the ancient Levant. Archaeologists have uncovered temples, altars, and ritual objects dedicated to him across the region. His main temple at Ugarit was a massive ziggurat that likely served as a landmark for sailors. Worship involved animal sacrifices, songs, and elaborate festivals timed with the agricultural seasons. In the autumn, they celebrated his return and the coming of the rains. In the summer, they mourned his absence during the dry season. This connected their daily lives and survival directly to the cosmic drama of their god. But the story of Baal took a dark turn as history progressed. As the Israelites established their monotheistic religion, the worship of Baal was seen as a direct threat, and the Bible is filled with accounts of prophets like Elijah challenging the priests of Baal. The famous story on Mount Carmel, where Elijah calls down fire from heaven to consume his offering, while 450 priests of Baal fail to get a response, is a piece of religious propaganda meant to show the superiority of Yahweh, or at least it was used in that effect. Over time, the name Baal became synonymous with false god. His name was even corrupted into Beelzebub, or Lord of the Flies, and he was reimagined as a chief demon in Christian demonology, the Prince of Demons. He went from being a heroic, life-giving deity to a symbol of evil. It's a dramatic fall from grace, driven by centuries of religious and political conflict. The heroic god who fought chaos and death was ultimately defeated not by another god, but by the changing beliefs of humanity. Now, if you're as obsessed with these kinds of stories as I am, you should definitely check out the Fantasy All Access Library. It's not just a bunch of books, it's an entire community we built on a platform called School. When you join, you'll actually get access to our entire library of ebooks and audiobooks that I've put together so far, with at least one new book released every month. You also get to hang out with me and all of the other fans in the community, join our weekly live calls where we talk about mythology, writing, other nerd stuff, and get the behind the scenes access to everything we're working on. And right now it's the best way to support MythHQ and dive deeper into the worlds inspired by these ancient myths. The link is in the description if you want to become a member. So see you there.